Listen, we've been in the Power of One series, and we're talking about how can that one person really make a difference? Whether it's through decisions, through our failure, through one word, through the power of one invite, or through the power of one church. How can one really make a difference? And so we're going to learn over this series how one can change history, how the one can do amazing things. And then the first week, Pastor Steve kicked this series off on the Easter weekend, and he talked about the power of one decision. And we saw how our decisions can affect our life and the lives of others. It can radically change things. And we saw also, Pastor showed us how Jesus Christ came and he made the decision to die for you and I. And that decision changed all of history and all of eternity. And then in week 2, Pastor Steve talked about the power of one failure and how that failure doesn't have to be the end and it's not the enemy. And if we look at it the right way, it can truly change our life and it can be the catalyst to success. Failure can foster growth. It can be the thing that happens before our greatest success if we learn from it and we grow from it. And so those were the first 2 weeks. And today, we're going to talk about the power of one word. Now, how many of you know words have power? You know, we used to say that saying a long time ago, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Yeah, that's a bunch of junk. That's not true. Words have power. They can hurt. They can do a whole lot of things. They can change our whole day. How many of you know that if you're having a bad day at work, yet somebody comes and pays you a compliment or says something nice to you, can totally change your mood? You can be at work and you can be going through an extremely stressful season where things just don't seem to be going right. You feel like maybe you're not living up to the expectations that are put on you. You don't know if you're going to succeed. And then your boss comes in and he says, hey man, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. Then kind of all of a sudden you're back in the game. You're feeling good, right? Because those words can change. They have the power to change things. And they can do it negatively too. You can be having a great day and somebody can come to you and be like, that shirt is the ugliest shirt I've ever seen. And now you're no longer having a great day anymore because you're wearing an ugly shirt. But things like that, words have power and they can impact us in every way, whether that's negative or positive. They have power to change things. They have power to change everything. One word could change everything. You know, words are in directions, right? That's how they're built. So if somebody's telling you how to do something or telling you where to go, if they tell you a wrong direction, then now you may not end up where you're supposed to be, right? Because those words weren't correct. They have power over whether or not you end at the right destination. Same thing happens, right, when maybe you're putting something together. Parents, you know this for your kids, or maybe you've bought some of that cheap furniture from Walmart and you've had to put it together and the instructions might be a little off and when it ends up not looking like what it was supposed to look like because the instructions weren't correct. So those words make a difference. Now, there's a painter back in the day. Oh, he's an artist. He did more than painting. His name was Michelangelo. And the church, he did a lot of things for the church. He painted the Sistine Chapel, you know, of God, his hands reaching out, touching Adam. So he painted that whole ceiling. And then he wanted to do a sculpture of Moses. So he gets commissioned by the church to do a sculpture of Moses. Hey, can you throw that up real quick for me, guys? There it is. So this is huge. What you can't tell is this is like really big. And so he did it. He chiseled it out of stone. But if you go in closer and look at Moses' head, there's something strange on Moses' head. What? Go ahead, go to the next one so I can make sure everybody's with me. You see that? Is that those horns on Moses' head? Why would Michelangelo put horns on Moses' head? Well, because words have power, right? And you see, at the time, the Catholic Church was using a version of the Bible. It was the Latin Vulgate. And St. Jerome had translated it from Hebrew over into Latin. And so the Hebrew word for radiate light, because, see, the description of Moses that Michelangelo was using was after Moses had come down from the mountain and he was up there with God. He came down, right? His face was glowing, right? That's what the Bible says. His face was glowing. They had to put a veil over his face because he'd been with God, so his face was glowing. Well, the Hebrew word for glowing or for radiate light is keren. And it's only separated, it can mean one of two things, basically by a couple of dots. It can either mean radiated light or grew horns. And St. Jerome interpreted that word to mean grew horns. He made a big, big mistake. And so it affected a lot of art of the day, actually. If you were to go back and look at a lot of art of the saints, they would have horns coming out of the top of their head because that's what they thought it meant. So words have power. One word makes a big difference. One word can change everything. And God knows this, right? He knew this. So it's in the Bible. So if you will, turn to Proverbs 18:21. If you don't have your Bible or you don't want to turn there, it's fine. No worries. It's going to be on the screen behind me. We're going to be reading from the New Living Translation. And this is what Proverbs 18:21 says. It says, "The tongue can bring death or life. Those who love to talk will reap the consequences." So your words can bring both death or life. Let's go on. Let's go turn, if you will, now to James chapter 3, verses 3 through 6. And I'm going to read from the Message version this time. And it says this. It says, "A bit in the mouth of a horse controls the whole horse. A small rudder on a huge ship in the hands of a skilled captain sets a course in the face of the strongest winds. A word out of your mouth may seem of no account, but it can accomplish nearly anything or destroy it." See, God's telling you your words have power. Power to do anything or to do the opposite, to destroy anything. See, what people say and what we say about ourselves or what we say about somebody else has the power to be the difference between success and failure. The difference between good and bad consequences. Our words shape our reality. Our words shape our reality and how we perceive the world around us. Now that's a big deal. God knew this, right? God uses words to create our reality, right? So in the beginning, God used words to create. In Genesis, right, he said, "Let there be light," and what happened? There was right. Then he said, "Let there be land," and there was right. And then he said, "Let there be animals," and there was right. He spoke it into existence. He created reality. Now, Jesus did the same thing. Jesus understood the power of words as well. In Mark chapter 1, verses 41 through 42, he told the man with leprosy, he said, "Be clean." He spoke it, "Be clean." And the man was healed of leprosy. Then in Mark chapter 1, verses 25, he's to the man with an evil spirit. He said, "Be quiet, come out." And the evil spirit left him. Moving on, Jesus says again, he said to a deaf man, he said, "Be opened." And the man's ears and tongue were loosed and opened. In Mark 4, verses 39, Jesus is out on the sea with the disciples. A storm comes along. They go wake Jesus up. They're scared about the storm. What does Jesus do? He gets up, and what does he do? He says, "Be quiet and be still." And the storm calms down. Jesus understood the power of words and the authority with which he spoke. And they understood that our words create our reality. So God knew that, right? God knows, and then God knows the way we're made, right? Because he created us. He knows the way our brain is wired. And so there's some science to this fact that words can create our reality. There's a book called "Words Can Change Your Brain." And the authors have learned, and they say this, they say a single word has the power to influence the expression of genes that regulate physical and emotional stress. So, a single negative word can increase the activity in the amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain. This releases dozens of stress-producing hormones and neurotransmitters, which in turn interrupts our brain functioning, especially with regard to logic, reason, and language. And so then it turns those things off. So then angry words send an alarm message through the brain, and they partially shut down the logic and reasoning centers located in the frontal lobe. So we've seen this, right? Married men, you've seen this a lot. You're arguing with your wife. You are presenting the most logical reasons. You have your argument perfect. There's no way you're wrong. You're not wrong, but you're still wrong every time, right? Because your wife is angry at you, and she shut off her logic and her reasoning. She's turned it off because she's angry. Same thing happens to men too. I'm not just picking on women, but it's the truth. You get in an argument and you're angry and you're upset. What happens? You turn off your logic and your reasoning. So the way we think changes our brain, right? Our words change our brain. So they found that the inverse is true too. They say this, they say by holding a positive and optimistic word in your mind, you stimulate the frontal lobe activity. This area includes specific language centers that connect directly to the motor cortex responsible for moving you into action. And as our research has shown, the longer you concentrate on positive words, the more you begin to affect the areas of your brain. Functions in the parietal lobe start to change, which changes your perception of yourself and the people you interact with. A positive view of yourself will bias you toward seeing good things in others, whereas a negative self-image will include you towards suspicion and doubt. Over time, the structure of your thalamus will also change in response to your conscious words, thoughts, and feelings. And we believe that the thalamic changes affect the way in which you perceive reality. So the words you use literally change the way you see reality. They affect your brain, right? If you're using negative words, you're what? You're stopping. You're turning off part of your brain. But then positive words do what? They turn on the part of your brain that moves you to action to help you make a change in your life. So if you're being negative, now your reality is getting smaller. It's changing to what you believe it is. And if you're positive, you see things positive, then you're rewriting your reality to that. Now, God knows that, right? He wired our brain. He set us up just like that. So when he says your words can bring either death or life, he knows what he's talking about. He's saying to you that your words shape your reality. Now, listen, one word can guide and direct us. That's what our words do, right? Because they're going to guide and direct us, right? Our positive words move you to action. They activate that part of your brain, right? So now it makes sense again. If you go back to James 3, he's talking about your words are like a bit in the horse's mouth, right? What do you do with the bit? You pull this way, pull that way. You guide and direct the horse. You affect, you change its reality. You are in control of that horse. The same thing happens with a rudder on a ship, right? You steer, the ship goes where you tell it to go. So is your tongue. So are your words. They create your reality. And our words have the power to put us on the right path or to send us spiraling out of control. That's why your self-talk is so important. Maybe you've been told something in your life a long time ago. Maybe you were told that you're not worthy, that you're worthless, that you're not worth anything. And after a while of hearing that enough, you begin to believe it. And that becomes your reality, that you're worthless, that you're not worth anything. Maybe you've been alone for a long time, you have no friends, and maybe you've been told you'll be alone forever. It can tend to stick with us. And when it does, when we take that in, it becomes our reality. And our words have the power to devastate us, but not just us. Our words have the power to devastate those around us too. When once you've said something, you can't take it back. How many of you said something you regret before? Right. We all wish we could catch it, but it's too late. In a flash, it's gone, and you're like, oh. You wish you could hit the rewind, but it just doesn't happen that way, though. It would be I would love that button. Could have saved me a lot of heartache. But our tongue, our words have the ability to devastate. They have the ability to destroy. There's a story of a woman in an Indian village who maliciously gossiped about another lady and her family in the village. One day she found out that she was wrong about this lady and her family and had a change of heart. So she went to the village's wise man and asked how she could take back all the wrong she had done. The wise man told her to go home and to kill her chickens, pluck their feathers, and put them into a bag. After this, she was to go back and see the wise man again. But on her way back, she was to scatter all the feathers she had plucked from the chickens. So the lady did as she was told. And when she got back to the man, he told her, "Now go back and pick up all the feathers that you had scattered." The woman was astonished at such a command and said, "By now the wind has carried the feathers throughout the village and beyond." The wise man told her, "And so it is with your careless words. They are like feathers scattered in the wind. You cannot retrieve them." And with that, the woman went away brokenhearted because of the words she had spoken. But she determined that day forward not to speak anything ill will. Our words are like those feathers. Once they're said, it's gone. It doesn't have to be true, right? Facebook works this way all the time, right? You see some post, you see an article, you don't even fact check, you just believe it. Oh, this must be going on in the world. It happens all the time on social media. Well, my best friend retweeted it. He knows what he's talking about, right? The problem is it true? I could put whatever I want on social media. I could say whatever I want about people. Whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. It's your perception that matters. And words have a way of changing your perception. Your words have a way of changing your reality. And we can change the reality for other people with careless words. We may not mean to do so, but it's what happens. Words can hurt. Words can bring death, and life is in the power of the tongue. Ephesians 4:29 in the Message version says it this way: "Watch the way you talk. Let nothing foul or dirty come out of your mouth. Say only what helps. Each word is a gift." If we could realize that every word is a gift, if we could really truly realize the power of one word and the effect that it can have on our life, our words change our reality. Keep that. Get that in your heart today. Our words display what's on the inside of us, right? What's in the well is going to come out in the water, right? You pump the well, what comes out in the water is what's down in there. What's in the tree will come out in the fruit. This is what the Bible says about that. Luke 6:45 says this: "A good person produces good things from the treasury of a good heart, and an evil person produces evil things from the treasury of an evil heart." What you say flows from what is in your heart. Your words show everyone around you what's in your heart. Your words show you what's in your heart. Are you speaking negatively all the time? Derogatory about yourself? Then that's what's in your heart. Do you speak derogatory about other people? Then that's what's in your heart. We must bring life to people, not death. The words we speak are either life-giving or life-taking words. The power of words is the power to speak over other people, and others is to affect their reality. If we could see the impact visually that one word has on somebody, we'd know, right? Because as people grow up, they hear this, they hear that about themselves. Maybe some of you have heard words about yourself that you begin to believe. And so they affect the way you live your life. They affect the way you do things. I know for me, growing up, I'm a bit awkward in conversation. I'm still awkward in conversation. If you have a conversation with me, you'll see. Like, for instance, the concept of hello. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't know why you'd say hello to somebody, especially if you already know them. You say it once, right? That's how I get to know you. But why say it again? Why do I say hello to you every time I pass you? I don't understand it. But it's true, right? It happens. You all do it all the time. You greet everybody you see and you say hello. I don't get it. There's a lot of social cues that I didn't pick up on growing up. Like, I didn't understand how to have a conversation until I was 21. And I was talking actually to somebody here on staff at church. But they were telling, like, you have to pass a ball back and forth, right? So I didn't get it. But so when somebody says, hello, how are you doing? I would be like, hi, I'm doing fine. I just dropped the ball flat on the ground. See what I mean? Because in order to pass the ball back, should have been, hello, how are you doing? Hey, I'm doing fine. How are you doing? Now I pass the ball back. Conversation. Mind blown, literally. 21 years old, mind blown. I was like, oh, that's how you do it. You think, you laugh, but this is serious. Because this is how I was. And still am to a degree. I have to work on it constantly. Like in the foyer, I may walk around to shake hands, but it's very like, if somebody doesn't make eye contact with me, I'm kind of just walking around like this the entire time. So after a couple years of doing that, I learned how to fix that problem. I would stand right in the middle. You've probably seen me, where everybody walks out. I would stand right in the middle, and then I could just shake hands with everybody, and I didn't have to go insert myself into conversations anymore. So it worked out. But growing up that way left me with kind of a label. I was the awkward kid who stood there quiet and you couldn't talk, right? Because you come and be like, hey, what's up, Kraig? I'd be like, good. Right? And so it left me that way. And then so after a while, it's hard to make friends when you can't have a conversation. And so after a while, I began to believe that about myself. You may think this is not true because of the person you think you see appear on stage, but the person on stage, this is a job. So I could task my mind to do a job. But just to go and have, like, small talk is my biggest fear in the world. If you said, hey, let's go get lunch, I'm going to be like, what are we going to do for an hour? I'm scared, right? So for days, I'll plan the conversation and how it will go. But it does. It scares me. It's very scary to think about small talk and having to carry on a conversation. And so it left me with a label. I'm the weird kid. And so I grew up, I thought it, I believed it about myself. I took it in, I said it about myself. I am the weird kid. And so now, that became my reality, right? But now I spend time undoing that reality. Because that's not what God says about me. Right? God says, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. God says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, right? God says, I am more than a conqueror. I'm an overcomer. That's what his word says. And so you may be here today thinking the same thing about yourself, that you're the awkward person, or that you don't fit in, or that you'll never be this, that you can never have this level of success. This is as far as it goes. Because somebody told you that's as far as you'll ever get. This is as good as it will ever get for you. Maybe they told you you were stupid or fat or ugly. Horrible things. Kids can be horrible. Especially when you hear things as a child, it changes your reality. Parents can unknowingly shape their children's reality, and it may not be for the best. Sometimes parents knowingly say things they shouldn't. And maybe you had parents like that. And you're here today, and your reality is that not of what God says about you, but of what you say about yourself. Proverbs 12:18 says this, the words of the reckless pierce like swords, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Your words can hurt somebody or they can help heal somebody. See, if you're here today and you believe something in yourself because you were told it, or the words that were said over you, or somebody said over you, you have to replace those thoughts. You have to change them. You have to rewrite your reality with new words. Right? You have to say things that are positive, that move your brain to action, to change who you are. And not just, but for your perception. Because you may not be any of those things, and people may not even think that way about you, but it's your own perception, which is your reality, because your perception is your reality. Everybody in here, your perception is your reality. How you perceive a situation is reality, whether it's true or a lie. So you have to ask yourself today, am I believing the truth or the lie? And where do you get the truth from? Right here. Right here. What we said earlier, everything that God says about you is found in this book. This book changes you, right? It pierces to the heart of who you are. It gives you the new words to say about yourself. It gives you the truth about yourself, and it changes who you are. Because the Word of God is alive. See, these words, this Word is power. So we need to decide what's your word? What's your one word today? Is it things you've heard, the lies you've heard all your life? Or is it the truth that God would tell you today? That you are fearfully and wonderfully made. That you're more than a conqueror. That you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. That is the truth. So today, the one thought that I want you to walk out of here with is your words shape your reality. And what reality are you shaping for yourself? And what can you do to walk away and change it? You replace those words, the lie, with the truth. And you continue to do it. It's not going to go away overnight. But you continue to say the promises of God, say the things that God said about you, and believe you are who He says you are. And over time, things will change. You become a little less awkward, and you learn how to have a conversation with people. It works. So with every head bowed and every eye closed in here today, maybe you're here and you say, I've never fit in. I'm believing lies about myself. Things that people told me, people I trusted. My reality is built on a lie. Not on the things of God and not what He said. But my reality is built on a lie. And you say, Kraig, I need a change. I need something different. I need Jesus. If that's you and you're here today and you need Jesus, you need a change in your life. You need the answer, which is God. If that's you, I just want to pray with you. I don't want to call you forward. I don't want to embarrass you. But if that's you, if you would, just raise your hand. If there's anybody right now, just raise your hand in this place. Anybody at all? All right, we'll pray this prayer after me today. And repeat it after me. I see that hand. Thank you. So if you raised your hand, pray. I see that hand. Thank you. Thank you. If you raised your hand, if you'll repeat this prayer after me. If you didn't, if you'll repeat that prayer in support of those who did raise their hand. If you'll say, Father, I come to you now. And I trade my reality for your reality. I trade the lie for your truth. And I ask you now to be Lord of my life, to forgive me of my sins. So I promise from this day forward to follow you with all that I have. In Jesus' name, amen.